and welcome back to another episode of the Garage Gameday Sports Podcast. My name is Louie. I'm your host. We got a busy episode today. For those of you who don't know, the NFL Draft is tomorrow. We're doing a mock draft, top 10 picks. We're also diving in, doing a 3-round mock draft for both the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans. I also want to talk Aaron Rodgers trade. Rodgers was traded to the New York Jets from the Green Bay Packers. We'll talk winners and losers, and if the Jets are legitimate contenders in the AFC now that they have Aaron Rodgers. Go ahead and smash that subscribe, smash that like, drop us a comment, let us know what you think of the show. We're available on all the socials, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. Go ahead and give us a follow. Let us know what you think of the show. We love sports. We hope you do too. We hope to grow our sports community just a little bit at a time every day. Let's go ahead and dive in to the NFL Draft. Top 10. I think everybody knows Carolina, or at least it's looking that way. The Panthers are going to take Bryce Young at quarterback. That's my projection too. The signal caller from Alabama does not make mistakes. Very smart with the ball, can push it downfield. I know size is going to be a concern. It's always going to be a concern. But I really think he has all the tools to succeed in the NFL. He feels a desperate need that Carolina has at quarterback. Great decision maker. He makes very smart plays. He pushes the ball down the field. I think he could use, a little bulking up. I'm sure they'll work with him, gain a few pounds, add some meat to that stature to absorb hits better in the NFL. But I think Bryce Young is a surefire number 1 pick. I think he goes to Carolina, and I think he helps turn that franchise around. And I don't think they need a lot to compete in the NFC South. Remember, that division was awful last year. You had the 8-9 Buccaneers win it. I think Carolina can certainly be in the running. You help protect Bryce Young, add some pieces around him, and I think you got something there for Carolina. So give me Bryce Young at number 1. Second pick. I know the Texans are kind of in a spot here. It wouldn't surprise me if they went defense here, especially with DeMeco Ryans now taking over as head coach. He's a defensive-oriented guy, played defense. We saw the kind of caliber defense he had with the 49ers. So it wouldn't surprise me if they went defense here or even traded back from the number 2 pick. But as it stands, they still have the number 2 pick as of the airing of this episode. Give me C.J. Stroud, quarterback of Ohio State, to go number 2 to Houston. I know Buckeye quarterbacks tend to not have a good rep when it comes to the NFL. The transition from college to the NFL is a big one, and Ohio State doesn't have the best MO when it comes to quarterbacks excelling at the next level. But Stroud has a cannon of an arm. One of his best games in his college career came against Georgia in the college football playoff semifinal. He can push it downfield also, and I think you need a steady hand at quarterback, especially with a new coach. Nick Caserio's still here at GM. He's been just a couple of years. So you need some big plays on offense. You need a splash play on offense, and we'll get into their mock draft a little later as far as who I think they'll add in addition to C.J. Stroud, and they could have some nice pieces here for Houston, so they could have something going forward. But give me Stroud to the Texans right now at number 2. Number 3, the Cardinals. I could see them trying to get suitors for number 3 if they feel like Stroud could fall to 3, or if someone falls in love with Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, the other 2 quarterbacks projected to go at or near the top 10. They could get some buyers for this pick, but I feel they will go defense here. I think they need defense. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if they went Paris Johnson, offensive tackle from Ohio State, to protect Kyler Murray, because you have that franchise quarterback banged up last year, kind of injury prone, undersized as well. You want as much protection around him as possible. But give me Will Anderson here, the edge rusher from Alabama. I think he's just an immense talent. I think he would be an immediate starter, have an immediate impact on that defense, can wreak havoc on defenses. I think they go Will Anderson here, but it wouldn't surprise me if they went offensive tackle or even traded back to maybe stockpile a couple of other picks and get an offensive lineman anyway further down. Paris Johnson could be available further down. Peter Skoronski, a couple of other guys there available outside the top 10 if you wanted to trade down. But like I said, this is no trading, in this mock draft, and there's been nothing announced as of the airing of this episode, so we'll just stick with the top 10 as is. Give me Will Anderson to the Cardinals. Number 4, another Will. This one of the offensive variety. Will Levis, quarterback of Kentucky, going to the Colts. Recent odds have had him skyrocketing up draft boards. I know there was the recent news that I don't know where it came out of or who said it, who the exact source was, but that Will Levis would go number 1 overall or maybe number 2. I'm not that high on him. I don't think that will happen, but I definitely can see number 4 with the Indianapolis Colts taking him under new head coach Shane Steichen. He comes, of course, from Philadelphia, where he helped mold Jalen Hurts, and before that, he was offensive coordinator with the Chargers, had Justin Herbert, another big-armed quarterback from a big school, so he definitely has that experience. I think Steichen might be licking his chops, hoping Will Levis falls to them at 4. In my mock draft, he does. Just a huge arm, great size, pro-style offense. I think he can do wonders with the Colts. You see the other young quarterbacks that are starting to develop in that division. You see Trevor Lawrence, probably the best quarterback in that division. Ryan Tannehill there, but with the Titans, maybe with an eye toward the future, they may go after a quarterback in this draft. And then, of course, the Texans, if they decide to go quarterback at pick 2, pick 12, or if they decide to just roll the dice and maybe address playmaker positions or defense. But regardless, I think the Colts go with Will Levis here. Will fill an immediate need, would be an immediate starter, and would thrive under Steichen. Number 5, the Seattle Seahawks. Interesting choice here because they are Grand Slam winners. They knocked it out of the park with a Russell Wilson trade because the Broncos struggled so badly this season. Seattle ended up with the number 5 pick, a pick they probably don't expect to have in the coming years, a pick this high in the coming years. So one wonders, do you go for the home run? Do you go for a quarterback to eventually take over Geno Smith? Do you go wide receiver, any of the sexy skill positions? But if Jalen Carter is there at number 5, the Seahawks have to take him. I know the off-the-field issues, the possible character issues, but Pete Carroll is a player's coach, and I think Pete Carroll will work with him. I think maybe the worst is over when it comes to Jalen Carter. The jump to the NFL will help him straighten out a bit, stay on the straight and narrow. And I think the Seahawks just have to take Jalen Carter. He would fill a need on the defensive line. He would be the best player available, in my opinion, at this point. He's just too good to pass up. And he could be an anchor for years to come for the Seahawk defense that hopes to one day get back to the Legion of Boom defense that they were known for, in the late 2000s, 2010s, more the 2010s. They hope to get back, so I think Jalen Carter would be an absolute home run there if he's available at number 5. Number 6, the Lions. I know Jalen Carter, if he doesn't go to Seattle, should go to Detroit because him and Aiden Hutchinson would absolutely wreak havoc on the quarterbacks in the NFC North and the rest of their opposition. But in this mock draft with Carter going number 5, I'm going to go out a little bit on a limb here. I know this is a need, and he could be going a little high, but the Detroit Lions, I have them taking Jackson Smith-Njigba, the wide receiver from Ohio State. I know they have Amon-Ra St. Brown, but pairing him with St. Brown would give them an electric, dynamic duo at the wide receiver position. Would give them another weapon, a huge playmaker. Wide receiver still need, after St. Brown, there's a bit of a decline there. So they can go big on offense. They picked up some secondary help this offseason. C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles. They also picked up Cam Sutton. So they addressed some secondary issues that they had. So I feel like they can go wide receiver here. I would love to see JSN go with the Lions, and him and Amon-Ra St. Brown could just light things up for Detroit. We saw them end the season on a high note last year. They finished 9-8 under Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, I think, is an awesome coach. I think JSN would thrive under Dan Campbell, and it would just give this Lions offense a whole new look and a whole different dynamic. So I like him to go to the Lions there. Number 7, the Las Vegas Raiders, and I was up on the fence here between Devin Witherspoon, corner from Illinois, and Anthony Richardson, quarterback from Florida. I was tempted to go Richardson, but I think Jimmy G could be a stopgap quarterback, or he could be the quarterback, in the next couple of years. I know there's a loaded draft class next year, so if things don't pan out, the Raiders could possibly look, at next year's draft. You've got possibly Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, a lot of guys coming out in a overall stronger quarterback class next year. but you ride with Jimmy G this year. So I think you go best corner available. I think he's the best corner on many draft boards is Devin Witherspoon. I think you take him. It addresses a need in the defense and in the secondary, and especially against the AFC West. May I remind you some of the other quarterbacks in the AFC West? Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. So to have a lockdown corner, the best corner available in this draft according to many teams, many GMs, I think you have to go defense here. It fills a need, and it also combats and offsets some of the other team's strengths in that AFC West. So I think that's a no-brainer for the Raiders. The Falcons, this is another bold take here. The Falcons, I know I've heard rumblings, Bijan Robinson, maybe Christian Gonzalez, a corner out of Oregon. Give me Quentin Johnston, wide receiver from TCU. People have looked at the Falcons and said, oh, you got to go Anthony Richardson if he's available. Maybe you even trade back and maybe take a shot on like a Hendon Hooker if Richardson's not available and you want to trade back, stockpile picks, you got to get a quarterback. Let me tell you, they've already committed to Desmond Ridder. They already said in the offseason, Desmond Ridder is our starting quarterback. They signed Taylor Heineke to a one-year deal from the Commanders. He's the backup quarterback. A very viable quarterback because we saw what he did when Washington was a Washington football team a couple years ago, leading them to the playoffs. But they've already committed to Ridder. He's only in year 2. I don't know that you give up that project just yet. And Heineke's contract is very incentive-based. I believe half of his contract could be incentive-based if he plays a certain amount of snaps, that sort of thing. So I don't know. Just from what I'm reading from Atlanta, that they seem to be sold on Ridder. I don't think they go quarterback here. But if you are sold on Ridder and he doesn't deliver this year, maybe then you move on to quarterback. In that case, you give him a big-time wide receiver. You give him another weapon. You lay it all out on the table and said, okay, fine, we're going to address the offense, give you another weapon, but if this doesn't work this year, we're going to move on to another quarterback. In any case, Quentin Johnston, huge receiver, big target, 6'3", over 210 pounds. I would love for him to fall to my Cowboys, actually, but I don't know. Projections for him seem to be all over the place, but if people are going to be desperate for a receiver, or if there's the slightest run on wide receivers, Quentin Johnston's going to go like that. So I'm not really expecting him to fall that far, but here I have him going to the Falcons at 8. Young, dynamic offense. You pair him with Desmond Ridder. You pair him with Kyle Pitts at tight end, and you've really got something for Atlanta. And like I said, the same thing applies to Carolina. This division is not going to be hard to win. You had an 8-9 team win it last year. I think at best, at absolute best, a 10-7 record gets it done. So Atlanta could very well be in the running. They had some free agency acquisitions also to address the team. I think you add someone the caliber of Johnson to that offense, you've really got something. They could be easily a front runner in the NFC South. So give me Quentin Johnston there to the Falcons. Number 9, the Chicago Bears, Peter Skoronski. Tackle, Northwestern. This seems very cut and dry. Either him or Paris Johnson, tackle from Ohio State, has to go here. It fills an immediate need, and Justin Fields is your clear quarterback of the future. You must protect him at all costs. When you draft a quarterback or when you commit to a quarterback, the next thing you should do is immediately address the offensive line. So the Bears, to me, this seems pretty cut and dry. It's either Skoronski or Paris Johnson. I like Skoronski a little bit better. Highly effective pick, very smart. Gives you stability and longevity at the positions. And they have a couple of needs at the offensive line that at least shores up one of those spots right away and gives protection to Justin Fields. And number 10, the Eagles picking at number 10, and this pick pains me as a Dallas Cowboy fan. It pains me, but I could see the Eagles doing this for a variety of reasons. Number 1, best player available, no questions asked. Number 2, it gives them another offensive weapon and another weapon for Jalen Hurts to thrive with. And number 3, it sticks it to my Dallas Cowboys. Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, running back, Texas. I have going number 10 to the Philadelphia Eagles. God, that sounds horrific. That sounds awful, not just to my Dallas Cowboys, but for every defense across the league. Because may I remind you, the Eagles already made the Super Bowl last year with just the absolute stupidity of riches Philly has at the offensive position. Jalen Hurts, You've got they lost Miles Sanders, so I mean you do have a need at running back. Bijan Robinson would immediately fill that. You've got so many receiver options. You got Dallas Goedert at tight end. So to me, that just seems like a no-brainer. The Eagles, if he's even there at 10, who knows? But I think the Eagles snatch him up, just gives Jalen Hurts another weapon, and it just makes everyone defensively account for another weapon on the Eagles offense. So to me, that's a no-brainer for Philly. He's the best player available. If he's there at 10, snatch him up. Now, for my Cowboys and Texans three-round mock draft. I got a lot of Texas fans out there. A lot of people from the state of Texas. My Cowboys, or my team is my team is the Dallas Cowboys. What I'm trying to say, and I've got a lot of Texan fans also. So I want to show some love for them. And based on how this mock draft goes, I think Houston fans would really like this if this shook out the way this played out. Went to Pro Football Focus, selected 3-round mock draft. So let the computer simulations pick everything except the Cowboys and Texans. I selected the Cowboys. They have picks 26, 58, and 90. Straightforward. One pick every round. The Texans have picks 2 and 12 in the first round, pick 33 in the second round, picks 65 and 73 in the third round. I will start with my Cowboys. Sorry, my Cowboys. Let's not have any confusion about who my team is. It's the Cowboys. I'll support the Texans, if and when they turn it around, but Cowboys are my number one team. Always have been, always will be. In the simulation, of course, Bijan Robinson was off the board. Quentin Johnson was off the board. Michael Mayer, the tight end of Notre Dame, was off the board. Dalton Kincaid went early also, a tight end from Utah. Give me Zay Flowers. I have Zay Flowers at pick number 28, wide receiver. Speedy, you can put him anywhere. Flowers said himself 75% of his snaps were outside the slot position. Now, I know he'll probably see more slot position work in this offense, but as we saw last year, the defense doesn't really seem to be the problem for the Cowboys. We signed Stephon Gilmore. The Cowboys signed Stephon Gilmore to help Trevon Diggs in the secondary. You still got Micah Parsons. You still got a good pass rush led by DeMarcus Lawrence. You need to address offense. And if Zay Flowers is there, you pair him with CeeDee Lamb. You still don't know quite what you're going to get with Brandon Cooks, but he's still very valuable, a viable option if he stays healthy. So with Flowers there, you've got a nice little threesome, and you can add Michael Gallup to that if he can stay healthy. That's 2 question marks in this receiving core if he can stay healthy. You draft Zay Flowers, and you immediately upgrade the offense, and you really got something going there for Dak Prescott. Second round, I've got Keanu Benton, defensive line from Wisconsin with pick 58. I've been hearing some good things about this kid, and on this mock draft, he slipped to 58. I saw his name, immediately snatched him up. It provides some stability and some depth to the defensive line. We seem to thrive best when we've got a lot of guys you can just cycle in and out, and you got, fresh legs, fresh hands, and fresh bodies that you can cycle in and out and just wreak havoc on that offense, especially if Jalen Hurts is in the division. You got Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley with the Giants. You've got the Commanders, and yeah, they're there, but they can still surprise people, and they can still be a pain in the neck when they want to be. So I would love to shore up the defensive line with my second-round pick. And I didn't go running back there because I feel like you can get value later on. This is, to me, a deep running back class. I know you've got Bijan in the first round. Jahmyr Gibbs has been kind of thrown around as a first, second-round option. But there's a lot of guys in this draft that can make noise. You've got Kendre Miller, Tyjae Spears, Tank Bigsby, Roshan Johnson, Mo Ibrahim later, maybe in day 3, he tore it up for Minnesota. Israel Abanikanda with Pitt. I feel like you can get a lot of production, maybe not to the effect of Bijan, but you can get some production in the later rounds, so that's why I went defensive line in round 2. And in round 3, pick 90, Tank Bigsby of Auburn. This dude can go. If he adds just a few pounds of muscle, man, he can really be an every down back. He can grind it out between the tackles, a physical runner. And if you bring Tony Pollard back into the fold, yeah, he may not be 100% to start the year. Or if there is injury concerns, I think a Bigsby-Pollard combo would be an awesome 1-2 punch for the Cowboys. Would give you another weapon alongside Zay Flowers if this draft were to come to fruition. So give me Tank Bigsby, running back Auburn with the third pick for the Cowboys, pick 90. I would be very happy with those trio of players adding to the team we already have. I would love that. Now to the Texans. 5 players here. We already talked C.J. Stroud going number 2 quarterback. What do you do with pick number 12? Well, DeMeco Ryans is your head coach, and he is a defensive-minded guy, so we're going to go a couple picks on the defensive side of the ball. Give me Nolan Smith from Georgia. This dude has a high motor. He can go a little undersized, but can create pressure on teams, and I think DeMeco Ryans can just absolutely get the most he can out of Nolan Smith at number 12. He seemed like a surefire thing at number 12. He slipped in the mock draft. I don't know if he'll be available there. Projections have him, I know all projections, all mock drafts kind of sway back and forth. Give me Nolan Smith at 12. Number 33, I was shocked that this guy was still available. I thought for sure he'd be a first-round pick, and he could very well be. John Michael Schmitz, center of Minnesota. You drafted your quarterback in the first round. We just talked about this with, who did we talk about? One of the other teams, I don't remember. But you go, or with the Bears, I'm sorry, drafting Skoronski to protect Justin Fields. Here, John Michael Schmitz feels an immediate need at center. You just drafted your franchise quarterback of the future in C.J. Stroud. The next round, you immediately address protecting Stroud with John Michael Schmitz, center from Minnesota at pick 33. I was thrilled. If I were a Texan fan, I would be thrilled if he fell that far. You snatch him up. You protect a quarterback if you do indeed take one in the first round. That seems like a no-brainer. You protect C.J. Stroud, and now you also give him a weapon. Pick 65. Cedric Tillman, wide receiver from Tennessee. He had some injury concerns last year, and I know Jalen Hyatt just blew up, especially in that Alabama game. But Cedric Tillman, a dynamic playmaker. We saw what he could do at Tennessee. That Tennessee high-flying offense was just all over the place. Tillman thrived when he was healthy. I think you pair him up with Stroud. You've got something going at the offensive side of the ball, and then as well as adding Schmitz on the line to help protect Stroud. Cedric Tillman, if he's there around 3, take him. And you've got some depth at the wide receiver position too. There's quite a bit of receivers that would be available there, but I like Tillman there. Round 3, pick 73, someone that would stay in the state of Texas, Siaki Ika, defensive line from Baylor, that addresses another need. I think DeMeco Ryans would work well with him too, that addresses that defense. You kind of spread the wealth between the offense and the defense, and I would really like that pick at pick 73. So if I'm the Texans, I would love a combination quarterback, edge rusher, center, wide receiver, defensive line. That's a start for the Texans. It's going to be a long slog, a long couple seasons, but it would be worth it with those 5 coming in. Now I want to talk real quick. Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets. He was traded from the Packers to the Jets. Blockbuster trade. There was a first-round pick swap. Among other things, also a second-round pick was sent to Green Bay that could turn into a first-round pick if Rodgers participates in 65% of the snaps for the Jets this season. I think that could very well be the case. That second could turn into a first. To me, I think the Packers win the trade long-term, but the Jets could win it in the next year or two. Now, Rodgers is 39, and we've seen Tom Brady beat the numbers game. He was 43. Rodgers is 39. I know I'm not sure you can get 4 years out of production from Aaron Rodgers, but if you can get a solid 2 years, that also builds the foundation for the rest of your team. Maybe Zach Wilson, maybe your quarterback of the future, gets to sit behind him and develop the same way Rodgers did when he was a young whippersnapper behind Brett Favre. But I think Aaron Rodgers, in the short term, they can definitely compete in the AFC East. I'm not ready to crown them a contender in the AFC. I still think the Chiefs, Bengals, and Bills are all better than the Jets as it stands. It's going to take some time for Rodgers to gel and develop chemistry with his young receiving core. We saw it last year. There was a lot of growing pains the first half of the season. You had Romeo Doubs, and you had some of those other young guys kind of struggle. And then Rodgers kind of started to turn it around, and the Packers made a push almost to the playoffs before they lost in the last week of the season. But he's got some dynamic playmakers on both sides of the field. He's got Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson that can do work for him, Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner on the defensive side of the ball. This is a young team with a veteran presence like Aaron Rodgers could do wonders if he is up to it and decides, that he really wants to give it his all with the Jets. They could turn this around. They could give the Bills a run for their money in the division. This could be a division where 8 or 9 wins could get you last place in this division. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum, say the NFC North, 9 wins could get you first place. They could get you last place in the AFC East. That's how tough it's going to be. I like where Green Bay's at. I know Jordan Love is going to be a work in progress. You could get him a receiver. You could get him offensive line help with a first round pick. You could get a tight end, one of the big tight ends, Mara Kincaid, that's available. That's also a deep tight end class also. So Green Bay could shore that up. But they could also use that first round or potentially first round pick next year to further address needs. So I feel the Jets win in the short term. The Packers, I think, the clear runaway winners in the long term because of what they got in return. But I just wanted to touch up on that trade. I think the Jets could be contenders, but we're still in a wait-and-see process, how he gels. But they definitely have the weapons to compete in a loaded AFC where you just look at the quarterbacks across the board. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, Lamar Jackson, if he is indeed a Raven. We'll see what happens on draft night and here forward. And now you add someone the caliber of Aaron Rodgers to that group. Just an absolute stacked quarterback class in the AFC. I just can't wait to see how the season plays out and how he fares with the Jets and what they do in the AFC and in the AFC East. But that does it for another episode of Garage Game Day Sports. My name is Louie. Feel free to like, share, subscribe to our channel. Smash that like, smash that subscribe. Follow us on all the socials. We're available on Twitter. We're nearing 10K. We are nearing 10,000 followers on Twitter. We're creeping up on 800 on Facebook, so we're trying to grow. And we've got so much content on different channels. You get a little bit of different things on all the channels, so feel free to subscribe to us, follow us on all the channels. We love sports. I love talking sports. I hope you do too. We hope to continue to grow our community. Feel free, shoot me a comment, shoot me a DM, whatever. You want to talk sports, let's do it. Let us know what you like, what you don't like on the podcast. We'll try and add new things, talk about new topics here on the podcast and on the YouTube, on the socials. So let us know what you think. My name is Louie, signing off. We'll see you guys next time. Draft night tomorrow. I cannot wait.